There was the Vietnamese War was waging, and I was against the Vietnamese War. I was 15 years old. I decided to start a magazine to campaign against it. It's called Student, and it became the sort of the national magazine for young people. The magazine didn't make much money, but it got a big circulation. About 100,000 young people bought the magazine. And one day I took an advert in the magazine, Virgin Records, 10 to 60% off any album on any label, and listed the kinds of records we liked, things like Frank Zappa rather than Andy Williams. And so it became very much the rock and roll mail order company. And then we started signing our own bands that we couldn't get other record companies to release. We released ourselves. There are bands everywhere that want to be found. It's finding the right ones. And I had a 15-year-old boy called Mike Oldfield come to me with a tape called Tubular Bells, which he'd recorded all the tracks himself. I literally went to another record company, borrowed an artist called Sandy Denny's contract, and we typed out the contract. We managed to get The Exorcist to take the music, and that took it to #1 in America. It became a phenomenal success. Moved on and signed bands like the Sex Pistols and the Rolling Stones, and a lot of other iconic great bands. In those days, there was quite a lot of money to go around in the record business. A big hit album could sell 10, 15 million albums. We went into the airline business because I had record companies all over the world, and I was traveling a lot on other people's airlines. And there was one time I took a flight from Puerto Rico to the Virgin Islands, and I got bumped by American Airlines, and chartered a plane, and I came out with a blackboard, and for fun I wrote Virgin Airlines, $29, to the Virgin Islands, walked around all the people who'd been bumped. I filled up my plane, and then as I was landing, somebody said to me, sharpen up the service a bit and you could go into the airline business. And I've started 3 or 4 airlines, so Virgin Atlantic, Virgin America, Virgin Australia, and they've all gone really well. And the reason they've gone well is because they're the best airlines in their field. And if you're the best hotel or the best shop or the best club or the best airline, you survive. I mean, it's people who try to be second best who normally stumble. The key to our success is to offer people much more than they'd expect. So we offer a much better than first class product for our upper class passengers, but we charge a business class fare. We offer a class above what people would expect. We do lots of nice little things which surprise people. Just little things like, we give people an ice cream when they're watching a movie, or popcorn, or we have a limousine to and from the plane for our business class passengers. And we put seat back videos in our planes 6 years before anybody else did. We're smaller, we're more nimble. We're from the entertainment business, so we know that people like to be entertained. Virgin is always evolving. I start businesses not because I think I'm going to make money out of business. I'm not particularly interested in that. I start businesses because I think I can make a real difference. The main thing to remember, though, is if you do go out to start a business, most people fail. But most people also pick themselves up and try again and again until they finally succeed.
So we've heard that over and over now from a lot of the guest speakers. Be prepared to fail, and because the failure is what's going to make you that much stronger. It's going to be able to put you in the right direction. I'm just going to play one more from Marc Ecko.
My name is Marc Ecko. I created a clothing company about 20 years ago called Ecko Unlimited, and have built many different disparate consumer product companies off of that. Someone's throwing punches at you, you kind of figure it out. You take a couple of shots to the head, you stand back up, you try not to take them so much, try to figure out ways to evade them and to return, right? I think the spirit of realizing your side hustle and your passion and pursuing your passion is less academic than we paint it. You just have to be prepared to know that the learning's just never ever gonna end. I remember a moment when I started to go from just t-shirts, where it was just my art, screen printing, where that production cycle was kind of very tactical, I knew it. But the minute I started to go to cut and sew, or like outerwear, right? Now you're dealing with seams. I remember sending my first drawing over to the manufacturer for a first piece of outerwear. And I remember I based it on a prototype of a jacket that I had bought for, let's say, just for conversation's sake, 50 bucks. I get back the quote from the manufacturer based on my drawing, and the price is like $35 like the cost. I'm the wholesaler that's going to sell it to the retailer. So 35 times 4 is effectively what it's going to cost at retail. So, what's that, $140, right? So I'm thinking to myself, I based it on a jacket that was 50. What's going on? Why is it so expensive? He said, well, the consumption. I said, it was a learning moment. Consumption? Consumption? Isn't that what you do when you eat? What do you mean the consumption? Well, your sleeves, the way you design the sleeves, you don't want a seam here. I'd drawn effectively a jacket that had no seam here. It was in my naiveness of designing it, I just forgot to put the seam. So it turned out that the way that they were going to have to cut the fabric in the paper pattern was going to consume more of the yardage. And so it made production more wasteful. Designing something without fully comprehending the limitations on the production side, how suddenly that became the rabbit hole to learn production. If you've got a dream, go realize it, all right? And be prepared to have it hurt. And be prepared for the dirty secret, which is it's going to be lots of little failures that make success. How can you realize your voice, your passion, and what can you glean from these lessons? And I tell you, the gateway, the pearl to true education is a tolerance and acceptance and the embrace of failing and knowing it's going to be painful. What's there for you? What are you going to make of it? What's your brand? Look in the mirror. Why don't you ask yourself? So you're not unique in having those questions. You have to discover that path. It is a self-motivated, self-directed journey. And if you don't know, figure it out, even if it's just 10 yards in front of you, and work to get to those 10 yards, and then figure out the next 10 yards, and then the next.
The Kaufman Foundation, adding a lot to the entrepreneurial spirit, so fabulous site. All right, so today we're going to talk about marketing. And let me just pass out some of these handouts to you. You take some over here. Take the rest. How many of you know exactly what marketing is? Not one person here knows what marketing is. Okay, what do you think marketing is?
Generating demand.
Okay, that's definitely part of it.
Exchanging something that has value for consumers at large.
It's more consumer relationship marketing.
I would say it's like a system of sales and communicating and educating the consumer. It's like I think it's a relationship.
Right. How many of you think marketing and advertising are the same thing? It's usually mentioned in the same breath, marketing and advertising, but they're two completely different things. So we're going to see a little bit of the video of the Young Entrepreneur series of your fellow entrepreneurs who are your age, and they're going to show you how they did it with their marketing. Because years ago, marketing, when I was growing up, was really limited to only a few things. You had television, you had radio, and then you had the ubiquitous Yellow Pages. I mean, the Yellow Pages advertising, was a very big area, and especially in certain segments like the field of law, or service industries like plumbers, electricians. Most people would go there. Today they go to Angie's List, or they go online to find out who the nearest plumber is to them, and they'll shop the deals, and they'll read the testimonials, and they'll see exactly what to do. All right, so we're here to talk about advertising that gets you clients. All right, today we're going to hear from a great guest speaker who deals with a lot of lawyers. So I actually pulled this up off of an American Bar Association site to talk to you a little bit about laser-focused marketing. So the most important decision when you are advertising is who is your target market. Now, if you're a lawyer that specializes in personal injuries, slips and falls, things of that nature, your audience is probably going to be, I would say, people between 40 and 80, people who may be prone to tripping. It could be people who get injured in auto accidents. Seems like that's a pretty wide area of advertising. How many of you think that lawyers are the biggest advertisers on television? How many of you think they're big advertisers on television? Okay. So you see enough of it out there to know that there's an awful lot of lawyers that are advertising. Any name ring a bell? Let's see how good they are. What? Salino and Bonds. And what is that? What's their phone number?
800.
Call the eights, right? Call the eights. So they did a very effective job getting to you to remember their telephone number. Okay? Not so much their name. And that was a really risky bet for them. Call the eights. Now I'm not sure exactly what, instead of call Salino and Bonds, they're two, nebbishy looking guys when you see the site. So, they're not looking like Robert Redford up there, so their thing is call the eights. And shockingly, the phone number is 800-888-88888. Guess what? How about the guy that owns the number 888-888-8888? If that guy's a lawyer,
No,
he's
they-
getting an awful lot of phone calls.
They just bought it.
They just bought
They
it.
just bought it.
Okay, so and that's because I told Dennis that number was for sale. So they actually bought the number. But yeah, listen, that number was for sale for a long time. But the owner of the number did not realize that the law firm, Salino and Bonds, was such a large law firm that they would be the obvious guy to buy that phone number. So first of all, you have to figure out who the hell you're selling to before you do anything. And for whatever, Nadia's 3D cake business, clearly it's a huge market, much bigger market, for the kids and birthday parties and weddings and things like that. So there is a finite market for that. Certainly Nicole's business of her app of designing things for younger girls is a targeted market. You're going to want to be on Facebook and on Twitter. You're not going to be on the yellow pages. When you're branding something, back to Salino and Bonds, it's their phone number that they're branding. Call the eights. Salino and Bonds, 888-8888. Maybe there's a career for me in music. I don't know. After this gig is over. But branding everything with the consistent logo, the name, the number is very, very important. Because once you start changing it, you're confusing the consumer. So you really need to keep the stationery, the logo, the advertising, the TV ad, the print stuff, all the tchotchkes you give away at trade shows. Everything must be consistent. Okay, and of course having a great name and a great website is key. Very, very key.
Could I tell you something
Sure.
interesting about Salino
Yes.
and Bonds? We finance Salino and Bonds. We're also the largest financer of television advertising in the legal space ×5. And the 1888 number that they use, it's a strategy which a lot of people have gone away from because they can't really, they do not know how successful their ads are. So we own and finance something called Soccer Floor, and it doesn't have a vanity number, but then by having different numbers, we can track the success of the ad if we have a celebrity spokesperson and how it works. So Salino and Bonds, his attitude is just get as many calls, bring as much, and even the Salino and Bonds ads aren't as specific as most of the other people in the space, so they're interested in branding a number. So they can't tell you that they advertised on The Big Bang Theory, Wings, wherever.
Right.
I mean, they advertise a lot on remnant television, but they have no idea of efficiency of marketing. So we are in a unique position. They spend more money acquisition per client than anybody else in New York State ×2, but they're figuring it's a numbers game, and the number is going to pay dividends not on the direct response, but as Ted says, with the brand. And
Absolutely. I think people remember the number, they go home, so they're in their car, they're not dialing, so they get home, they remember this number, and, they're going to ultimately end up calling the number. So just to take on from where Dennis was saying, the reason you see a lot of infomercials on TV with different phone numbers, just like one of these like weird 800 or 888 numbers, the reason for that is they use that to track the effectiveness of their advertising. So they'll run a campaign with a separate phone number for each media that they do. Okay, this way they know what works and what doesn't work. And what doesn't work, they get rid of. Unlike just one phone number and you're running a national cable TV ad and you're getting calls from Tennessee and Louisiana versus having a local campaign and with a local telephone, a local 800 number, which then gives you the exact metrics that you need to create your advertising. Okay, that's again if you're going to do TV. All right, you are not your prospect. That's a very important one. I have a really great story. So the chairman of a major company wanted to see his commercial every day during the Today Show. He just liked waking up and he liked to see his ad during the Today Show, even though there was no relevance whatsoever to the Today Show, because he wanted to see his ad in there. Then there are people that think their ad is great because they and their executive team and their marketing people think it's a great ad. Unless you are your own prospect, you are not going to know whether your ad is very effective until you test it, until you try it out. Okay, so don't get stuck in this is a great ad, because nobody knows anything. You saw a few weeks ago, my producing partner Julie Boardman was in here, and we talked all about American in Paris and how it all happened. Turned out the show looks like it's going to be a success. Had a big opening, ticket sales are through the roof. Everyone's seeing the TV ads and online ads for American in Paris. It's running nonstop. But marketing's very tricky, and you can't believe your own bullshit. You have to test things out to know if it works. Just because you think it's good, or your wife thinks it's great, or your kids look, it means nothing. Zero. It just means nothing until you test it out. Testimonials. Testimonials work very, very well in ads. If you see most of the infomercials either has some sort of celebrity or they have normal people wearing the blue blockers on Venice Beach, talking about how great these sunglasses are. Now the blue blockers are yellow. The same geniuses who came up with blue blockers now have yellow glasses, and they call it something different. So they came back again, and a lot of these products disappear and then they come back again. This company Telebrands, that's what they do for a living. They continuously bring back old products back on that did well and bringing it to a new generation.
It reminds me of that guy that used to have this book, Natural Cures, for Kevin Trudell. And
Right.
and then these testimonials, they seem sketchy, but he'll always mention Sarah from Alabama, but he'll never mention names like full name. You can't trace it.
That's right. If they say if you're a paid endorser, it must say in the TV ads, paid sponsor. That's why you see that in the ad, paid sponsor, because the FTC doesn't like you to do that. And lastly, on this thing, and you get to keep this and look at it a little bit more detail, but we're pushing the class along a little bit today. Repeat your winners. Continue the ad campaign until it stops working. Because once you have something that works, you must continue to make it work. Okay, so you must continue to run the ad until you're not making a profit on that ad, and then you're going to want to change up the ad from there. Okay, any quick questions on this? Okay. All right, we have two student speakers today. And first we're going to hear from Azaminia. Here's Azaminia.
Sorry. Hi guys. Okay. So I just wanted to start off by saying that this is absolutely not what I began the class thinking I was going to do. I actually last night, upon researching a little bit further my initial business plan, realized that it was a total hoax and that it would not work. And so I completely had to revamp it. And so I'm sitting here at 12 o'clock because I do everything last minute. And I completely came up with a new concept. And this is called Luxe. And so what it is, it's a personalized skincare brand. And so I found that nowadays everything is customizable from like phone screen, from your phone, from like your bags to your clothing. If we have a personal style, we can also have a personal skincare brand that caters to our specific needs. And so that's what Luxe is made for. And so the way I plan on advertising Luxe is that I want to focus on the Luxe customer. And so what it means to be a Luxe customer is someone that's like a go-getter. She or he is on the go all the time. They don't have time to really be researching all these products all the time. They need something for them, cater to their needs. And so this would provide them with that. They're committed to feeling good and looking good. And again, no time to waste in like the beauty aisle all day long. They can just go online and fill out what would be something along these lines. So they would go and register on the website. And then they would say if their skin is oily, dry, or combination, and then just name all of these little categories. And so based on this, what Luxe would do is create an entire skincare line for them. They can either buy specific items or they can buy the entire line. And then what we'd also be able to do is have sizes. So say you want to start off really small because you're not really sure, you're skeptical, we would offer various ranges and sizes. For marketing, again, I feel like nowadays if you go on Instagram, you're constantly seeing these bloggers, fashion, beauty, you name it, advertising products, and so they put it out as if they use it because they're a consumer of this product. And so in order to have some sort of dedication to the product, you need to see that people living the life that you want to live using this product. And it so becomes a lifestyle brand as opposed to just your cleanser or your moisturizer or your serum. Again, it's based on the premise of the youthful go-getter. What I really wanted to kind of make Luxe about is like this, basically kind of inspired by the New Yorker, because this is someone who gets what they want and they get it on their own time and they don't have to like go through a bunch of like sources to find it. They want one place where they can find everything that they need, and so I want Luxe to be that place. I also wanted to utilize an online space for blogging, and so each customer that signs up with Luxe would have their own profile, and this profile would not only be a means of being in touch or updated with skincare, but it would also be a means of like reminding the customer. Say we know that the lifespan of our product is 6 months, we can always kind of remind them like, listen, this is coming up, like, do you want to refill? Or here's a promotion, or did you see what this blogger said about the product? Can you contribute to the conversation? And so you kind of get this conversation going amongst the users, and so there's this dedication to living the Luxe life. And then that's basically like the product would be branded. It would be basically, so you'd have the Luxe brand, and then on the back I would kind of have it like your specific needs would be outlined, and then explaining the ingredients within the product that cater to that need. And so each one would have your personalized name on it because this is about you. So again, I stress that Luxe would be something that is very individualistic, but provides people with a community to talk about skincare, and then maybe fashion, and then maybe just, you know, outsource Luxe like that.
Wow, is there anything being done like this today?
There actually is a brand, it's called Skin Inc. If you see, they're actually these bottles over here. However,
Right.
I've noticed on their website that in order to become a member, you have to like go through this entire process of signing up. And like they do have good press or whatnot, but being that I just discovered this, it's telling because I'm like always in my skincare like routine. I had never heard of them until last night.
Right.
And so I feel like they're not doing what I plan to do as far as marketing goes. And I think that would be the winner for me, would be the way I market it and the way I utilize public relations.
Yeah, I
in
think
that
a
manner.
questionnaire is a good idea. I think maybe even a better idea that I've actually never seen done before is to take some sort of a sample, either that you have like some sort of a sticky Scotch tape to your skin, you put it back in and you send it off to the company, and now, you know, through a medical science, you have like a customized, based on your skin kind of thing, maybe working with a doctor. It sounds like a Rodan and Fields kind of a thing. you
Right,
know?
I think it would
feels
definitely-
proactive. It sounds like you can have some really good legs with this product. It hasn't been done before.
And I
Any
just-
questions at all?
Yeah.
Are the products that you are suggesting, are they products you're making or products you're suggesting from other brands?
Oh, so they would be made by Luxe. They would be Luxe products.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then my question is the platform. So is it gonna be online through apps? Like how are you through the website?
So that's interesting because, again, mind you, I came up with this last night, so a lot of thought hasn't really gone into that part. But I will say that the website will be the main contributor to our clients. Definitely building that online profiles, it's really important because that's where everyone is at right now. It's that mobile, like being able to like, even apps too, and I feel like that's what I was thinking is very, very interesting. This can easily be utilized into like a really clean, like almost swipe kind of app, like oily, dry, or whatever, and then it would kind of like create a really swift presentation of our product. And again, with the online community, you have the chance to, you know, discuss the product or whatever and kind of get conversation going about it, and then social media obviously contributes to that even more so.
I was thinking, what if you had like a super sample? Like
A super sample?
super sample, like all these things on one strip, but it's
Yeah.
one-time use and they get to test everything.
And that's what I meant as far as size goes. I
Right,
feel like
that's what-
I wouldn't not charge for the sample though at the same time, because I
Right.
think that maybe at least like a $5 or $10 fee would need to be
Right, right.
allocated for that, because it does take a while to formulate whatever for specific skin
I
types.
think you could also take a picture of your skin and
That's
send it
what
in. I
the
think
app-
there's
yeah,
some
like a
other
selfie
ways, you know.
and like we can have our
I think there's some
dermatologist on
interesting
site.
ways to do that, you know. Touch your head with the phone. Make sure you don't knock yourself out while you're doing that. Okay, that's a great idea. Well done.
Thanks.
Okay, next we're gonna hear from Darren.
Nervous.
Darren. How do you need this?
Yeah.
Like searching.
Oh, okay. Okay. Hi, good afternoon, class. Like our fellow presenter, my business plan throughout the whole semester so far has been a complete hoax. I've been battling through different ideas. I've been sending you so many different ideas.
A lot of
each week.
emails. Darren's been, right?
But so I decided, all right, like if I'm going to present today, I wanted to present something that's meaningful, something that I actually care about, and I knew at some point I was going to have to present. But I decided to, you know what, I'm having a problem at work. I work as a commencement operations specialist for Brooklyn College, and one of the problems that we have is finding volunteers. Now, you would think for a campus that has 1,000+ students, here enrolled at campus, you think it would be easy to find volunteers, and turns out it really isn't. Especially for a campus, where students are highly involved, and we still don't have enough volunteers for various activities on campus. So I decided, you know what, like since this is a part of my work, and I myself am a volunteer for different organizations on and off campus of Brooklyn College, I decided, you know what, there is no platform. At least what I'm trying to do is to connect students and faculty together to have a clear communication of volunteer events and organizations and events. So the name of my company is called StudentDeeds.com. I actually checked the domain. It's actually available for $10. I was like, okay. So my mission statement is I want to change the world by making community service easy and accessible to everyone. So why should students start volunteering? It's because it's admirable. You could give back, and it's good to be in touch with your community. You actually gain skills and maybe get some expertise in the fields that you want to get into. And to top it off, you get to beef up your resume, and you could possibly get college credit. So what I'm trying to do with Student Deeds is create a member profile system, volunteer network, pretty much. And I I want this platform to be catered to different universities. I want to start off with Brooklyn College since I'm already working for the school, and I want to work with computer programmers and members of ITS to develop a platform where we could be in touch with faculty, that if you that you could put volunteer services on your transcripts and have it embedded. So anywhere, so if you want to go to grad school, you want to go get a PhD, you're going to be in competition with other people who want to go to college, the same college that you want to attend to. So these volunteer, the volunteer service will be on your transcript, and will be embedded in your resume, and it will definitely, separate you from the rest of the pack. So yeah, so.
How do you make money from this?
Oh, money? All right. So I decided. So I realized that since I will be working with the college, right? A lot of it will probably have to be we have to generate advertising. Or maybe we could hire web developers. No, well, they could pay us so we could put their applications on our platforms, and then we'll make money from that too. Also, we would like to incorporate it in student activity fees, probably just like $1. But yes, question.
Are you going to maybe charge in a college since you're doing it college by college?
Well, yes. That's a dilemma that I was dealing with too, because it's either partnering up with the colleges or actually having a team of people and then we present our platform to the college. Hey, you could use this as a third-party system. But just like on Brooklyn College, they use a third-party system called Experience to have job opportunities and etc. So I will definitely be, it's either partnering up with Brooklyn College or becoming a third-party system and working with Brooklyn College.
Yeah, I would think that, and look at your little example there, having Toro and having other colleges, master's programs, other for-profit schools, and other vendors that would want to reach college students, which is a very tough demographic to reach. Sounds like you have a really good idea there. Okay, good. Let's hear it. We'll have Darren's email address if we need to reach him back, because he sends a lot of email. He has a lot of questions, and like a good entrepreneur should have a lot of good questions.
Think differently. Don't leave home without it. I'm loving it. Just do it. You know the slogans. So how do you get the word out about your business? How do you get your first customers? What does it mean to build a brand? Whether it's television, radio, web advertising, or word of mouth, each business needs a unique blend of getting their name out there. This chapter will cover the basics of taking your business idea out to the public to let them know what you offer.
Marketing is a lot of different things. Marketing is your image. Marketing is the collateral that you use to put forth that image. Marketing is the way your studio looks. Marketing is advertising. Marketing is customer service.
The key to marketing is understanding who your audience is, absolutely hands down. If you can understand the person that you're pitching or the person you're going to be putting your ad in front of, you can understand where they go, what they look at, where they would search online, the magazines, the publications, etc. I think the best way to do that is literally whiteboard it. Get in front of a whiteboard or a pen and paper and draw the person that you want to sell to, what they look like, what they wear, where they shop, the things they buy, different attributes about that person so you really understand them.
What I always try to do is look at whatever competition that's out there and say, okay, what is my competition doing? Where are they advertising? Where are they posting information at? What are they selling prices, their products for and things like that. And then whoever I felt was amongst my best competition, I would try my best to emulate them.
Traditional marketing still has its place in business, and what I mean by traditional marketing is pretty much everything but online, which is good old networking, trade shows, expos, also print media.
So the way we've marketed Method has always been very alternative, and I was a big believer that we had to be ahead of the curve and do things that our competition couldn't do. So our competition's really good at mass advertising, because to be good at it, you just have to have a lot of money. And coming from that world of advertising, I knew it was really important not to ever try to play that game. So we put money elsewhere. First place we always put it was in the product and delivering a better product experience. And again, the role of packaging. Second was merchandising. If we're going to have a beautiful package and a beautiful product, well, we got to make sure people notice it. So we invested more behind what we call our M-Spots, which are brand blocking displays of Method.
We put signs up on the gates of our 200 plus members throughout the community, so anybody who's walking past their property know that we're being serviced. Our garbage bags look different, our uniforms look different. We have a military and aggressive look because we're an aggressive community.
So we started marketing just using Google AdWords, which is the search component for Google. Anytime you search a keyword, you could put an ad and you pay per click. We've had a lot of success with that. A big part of our monthly marketing budget goes into that. And then from there it was landing pages. Once they click on the ad, again, displaying them the things that are relevant to them, and ultimately hoping to sell them or convert them.
And then we also form partnerships. Partnerships are really, really important. When you're talking to other entrepreneurs and trying to figure out, how do you both further your goals, that's the other negotiating factor. What do they want? What do you want? So we worked with The Body Shop, for example, and they had this shower gel for Earth Day. It's called Earth Lovers Shower Gel. It was biodegradable and it smelled amazing. And they wanted us to announce it and launch it for Earth Day. So we partnered that with the 3-minute shower challenge, trying to get college women all across the country to take shorter showers in order to conserve water and save the environment. So we partnered those two things together, and then the winners who entered into the challenge won a ton of products from The Body Shop. So we were marketing The Body Shop, but by providing really integrated and innovative content on our site.
I'm doing cross-marketing with other businesses as well. Like if there's a jazz club and they need to eat, or they need to listen to music, or like there's a bar close by you.
In any industry that you're getting into, look around and see what associations or other resources are available that you can network within.
To grow your business, you just have to keep meeting people, keep meeting politicians, keep meeting community members, keep meeting bankers. I cannot tell an entrepreneur how I succeeded on how I've come this far in business. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I cannot, if I had to start over today and recreate this business the same way to make it start, I just can't. It wouldn't, it's about the resources, the people I meet. That drives where we go, I'm more sporadic, I'm more organic in my growth. I grow whichever way the sun is pointing.
Today we're at the Billboard Touring Conference and Awards, and we're the presenting sponsor of this event. And this is really, these sorts of opportunities are a way for us to engage with people face to face, start the conversation. This particular event's full of industry experts, movers and shakers within the live entertainment business. And this is our way to start to talk to them. You never can expect to leave with a bunch of clients in your back pocket, but they are people that can ultimately make an introduction or maybe even become a client down the road.
From the very beginning of our company, we would do these different charity event shows where you set up a booth at say a breast cancer foundation or a junior league. 15% of your sales would go to the charity. You're selling product to the customer, getting the customer feedback. You're making a good margin, but you're telling the story. Everybody that comes up to our booth, they're getting to know the story of our company.
Social media is so important for entrepreneurs because if you're starting a company, and it's a good company, it should be focused on a mission, create a cause versus a business. And there should be real human beings and real stories behind it. And that's such a big advantage versus a giant corporation.
Social media is an incredibly important tool for us in terms of marketing. Facebook is one of our largest traffic sources. About a third of our traffic actually comes from Facebook. all of our writers are constantly posting links on Facebook to their articles because they wrote these articles and they want other people to read them. And so people are hearing about the site through their friends. So they're getting a recommendation from someone that they trust, someone they're friends with on Facebook, and then they're checking out our site and hopefully they're liking it, and then they're telling their friends about it. The same thing goes for Twitter. And social media is just an incredibly cost-effective, it's free way to really spread the word about your company to hundreds of thousands of people at once. So if you have a business idea, the most important thing for you to do, or one of the most important things for you to do, is to get up a social media presence right away. It will take you less than a half hour to put up a Facebook page and create a Twitter. And through that, you can start spreading the word about what you're doing. And as other people come to learn about it, they're also going to give you feedback. And that feedback is going to help inform your direction, help give you ideas for how to move the business forward. And it's fun, and it doesn't cost any money at all.
We're able to create a community who we can go survey. It's a great area to ask questions. So instead of spending $25,000 or $50,000 on an expensive focus group, you can do that focus group for free if you have a robust Facebook page or if you have a group through a social media platform.
On the day-to-day basis on Facebook, we introduce like a new drink or the new special or what's going to be happening this weekend, or if they come in at this certain hour, this certain time, there's a special.
Brand is everything. Brand identity. Let's think about McDonald's. You see a yellow M, you don't think McDonald's, you think, oh man, a number 2. You know?
Being true to whatever your company's mission is and making sure that your messages across all platforms and all media channels stay true to that message is something that I really drive home at Luxury Market Branding. I want customers to know that they can always rely on the companies that I help to market and help to build. And then in turn that creates trust, and in turn that creates word of mouth marketing and gives that company more equity in the marketplace.
Today's special guest speaker is a guy that I met about a year ago, one of the leaders in his field. Without any further ado, I'd like to give it up for Dennis Shields.
Thanks, Ted, for allowing me this opportunity. I'm actually excited about this. It's interesting for me to watch these videos and hear you guys speak, because I look at myself as an entrepreneurial, and what I am is currently I'm the chairman of a bank, a nationally chartered bank. I'm the owner of probably the third largest specialty finance business in America. I own a pretty big payment processing company. And I looked at all these entrepreneurial things, and at some point you reach a size and you become institutional, which I never actually thought that would happen to myself, because I started in business when I was your age. And tell you two quick funny stories. One, before I get to how I get started, is Ted made the comment, don't think you're your own customer. So what I would start off telling entrepreneurs is two things. One, know your numbers. You have to know your numbers, and you have to know your numbers cold. You saw two presentations, and the first thing I want to understand is what my cost to acquire a client, what my cost of goods are, and the cost and understanding and measuring where you are is so incredibly important. So I have 17 different businesses that I'm the CEO, chairman, or sit on boards. Almost all of them meet monthly, quarterly, and they're businesses where I get daily reports, weekly reports, monthly reports. But this is so important to know your own numbers, and so you never fool yourself, and you never want to fool yourself with numbers. Number two, whatever business you're going into, I always looked at the entrepreneurial focus. Two great things about it. One, you should be looking to solve a problem. Whatever business you're going in should be answering some problem or void in the market. And the great thing about entrepreneurship and why it works so well is almost every successful entrepreneur, they started with Richard Branson, was not understanding that you shouldn't be able to get done what you do get done as an entrepreneur. So there was all this talk, failure, failure, failure. I actually never looked at failure. I looked at if somebody said, no, that wasn't failure, I was going to go on and on and on. And I started my business, I'll tell you how I started in a minute, when I was your age. And I'll tell you how it started. But Ted gave me a laugh when he said, know your own customer. Because we own a big media agency. And we have a company which does microloans. It's the largest of its type in the United States. And when you get into business, you have a million people always asking you and making suggestions, meet with this person, meet with that person. So somebody asked us, who was an investor in another company, to meet with this media agency about doing a buy. And they show us a commercial ad for this consumer loan, and everybody in the room sits there and says, this is terrible, this is awful. And it was about giving people money, and the ad, the first part of the ad, was a guy was on a bus, and they stuck money in his pocket. Instead of a pickpocket, it was a reverse. And then the guy sees he's got this money and he's so happy, and then it says borrow money from us or something like that. So we all thought this was terrible. And the guy looks at me, who was the head of the ad agency, and says, that's great, because you're not the customer and you're not who we're trying to drive to. We spent $600,000 on the media campaign, and it was a total loser. It turned out that we were right. So sometimes you do know your own customer. But how I started out in business was, I was 18 or 19, I think I was 18, and I wasn't altruistic. I had this idea, I wanted to make $1 million before I was 21. That was my entire reason for going into business. And it wasn't, I didn't have a logic to it. It wasn't, I didn't have a use like I was going to take the $1 million. So that was my start. My love of, people say you should do something you love. My love was I wanted to make $1 million. So I was doing an internship. I was a sophomore at NYU, and I was doing an internship that I got through the school program for a Supreme Court judge in Kings County. And I had the extent of my internship was carrying his mail or picking it up when it went to the wrong place. It was not a very active internship. But in the middle of the internship, there was a doctor who was testifying on a case where a building had collapsed. And he was a doctor who was educated in non-American medical school, and I couldn't understand a word he said, and he's testifying before a jury on these injuries. And finally, he gets to the point where they said, how much money a year do you make testifying? And the guy says, $1.2 million. And I was thinking, I wouldn't bring my family pet to this guy. And he's making, and this is in 1987, So I said, I started to learn, and I did my own research and did presentations similar to the ones you guys did. And I said, what if I could get high quality doctors to give these typical people who are either injured in accidents or injured on the job high quality medical service? And so I begin and I study and I try and understand reimbursement rates. And again, I didn't understand anything. And if I would have brought this plan in, Ted, and you guys would have laughed and said, this is ridiculous. This will never work. Why will the doctors talk to you? Why will the unions talk to you? So I approached a group of doctors. I said, Medicare rates seem to be going down in this country. And I talked an orthopedic group who was at a pretty big hospital, and a neurological group, into providing coverage. Then I went door to door. And it was a lesson that I never forgot, because there were people. Now, as I said, I'm the chairman of the bank. Anybody who wants to see me, it was a very good lesson in humility, having thousands of doors slammed in your face. But I took all these things, and my idea was simple: providing high-quality medical care to people who don't traditionally get it. I started with one office. I scraped together the money. I made, as a kid, shoveling snow and things like this to open my first office. That business and I went door to door to doctors and to unions, and I went to emergency rooms to meet with people who were sending people out for after care. And I'd say I maybe had a 2% hit rate. That business ended up, before I sold it, at its height, seeing about 45,000 patients a year, doing about 85 million in sales and making about 16 million a year in profit. And by the time when I was 20, so the business starts, and you learn a lot of lessons, and all these things that you don't think will happen. And but again, it was right away. I was very good at getting testimonials. So we provided really, really high quality service. I tracked waiting time. We gave food to people who were in the waiting rooms. We made sure that we provided transportation. One thing led to another. I started to notice that I was sending out a lot of MRIs, that the business was sending out a lot of MRIs. I said, I should go into the MRI business. And again, I'm 20 years old, so an MRI machine at that time cost $500,000. So I said, well, how am I going to finance this? I have this business, it's making a little bit of money. And I said, well, I'm sending MRIs to 3 places. Why don't I go to these places and say, I'm going to pull my MRI business regardless. I need you to lend me money to finance an MRI machine. So I went, they bought off on it. And again, it was like, if somebody told, or somebody asked, Ted, can you get that done? The answer was probably no. They would have said, take the business elsewhere. But I was persistent. So then what happened in the MRI business was the laws were changing, and I became aware of something called the Stark Amendment. And the Stark Amendment, and this is knowing your customer, basically was a rule which was changing how self-referral was working in the United States for MRIs and for blood labs, meaning that you couldn't, I don't want to get too technical, but how MRIs were traditionally owned was there's one GP and all these limited partners. And the thought was that was causing too much referral and costing the government money. So they wanted to get rid of it, and it was wrong. It was wrong that they got rid of it. It was really, there was more usage. But I realized that a high volume physician or distressed hospital could use these MRIs. They were an effective tool. You could practice better medicine. So I came up with numbers, just like what I was saying, with know your own numbers, where I would go into a distressed hospital, we were at Kings County Hospital, one of the first hospitals we got. And we went in and I said, I'm going to enable you to practice better medicine, you're going to attract doctors, I'm going to finance it, and you're going to make a click fee. So it's 20 years, again, I had 5 MRIs, I was a junior in college. And I would go to school in the morning and then I would work every night. And like I said, half these things were because I didn't know that I shouldn't get them done. The other half was I knew what my weaknesses were, and I was able pretty quickly to bring in other people who could help support the business. That business, just as just to tell you that where saw no failure, I got approached before I graduated from college by a small investment banker. He said, "We love this business model. We want to take it public." We took the business public. Then within a year, we sold it to another company for, I think, $36 million. And I had just graduated from college. And I think that the lessons that I learned that would be valuable were, I did exactly what Ted said. There was a need. There was a certain type of certain person who got injured, who needed medical care. I was able to provide high quality medical care. I began to see there were offshoots of the service. I financed it how most entrepreneurs financing, just sort of begging and borrowing and getting it done. But the main thing was I always knew my numbers. And every week I would look at my numbers and say, okay, I have 78 MRIs, my radiology costs are this. You have to know your numbers. The biggest reason businesses, in my mind, fail are execution. There's so many good business and ideas, and I look at the place where you guys are sitting now, and it's so much easier to be an entrepreneur. It's so much easier to get the word out there. When I first started with television advertising, there were like 3 people television advertising, and even how that business has changed when you look at the support, or we have businesses where we pay people on Twitter, and we have one person who has 22 million followers who endorses a soft drink that we have, and the ability to get to the public and build businesses today is so much easier than it was years ago. And the idea of businesses where you need bricks and mortars, the internet, you look at companies. I don't know how much you guys have spent on crowdfunding or know about what crowdfunding is, but basically crowdfunding is a means of finance based on the Jobs Act, which is going to disintermediate how traditional financing is done. But when you look at what technology is and where business is done, you look at all these businesses and all the wealth that's getting created. And so I would say, as a young entrepreneur, there are inefficiencies in the market, and the ability to access and get ability to reach out to clients in clever ways is so much of a better avenue today. You look at a company like Uber, and you say, what is Uber? Uber is a GPS. What is it? All it is it's a GPS system. And Uber went in, and they went into places where New York City taxi cab medallions have risen in price every year since 1940. There's no business. Medallions hit a height of about a year and a half ago of 1.2 million. And Uber went in and said, we're going to provide a better product, we're going to have cleaner cars, we're going to do A, B, C, and D, and we're going to do this. And it was a business plan, and today Uber is they're raising money now at a $60 billion evaluation. So there's more opportunity now than ever before, but I keep going back to the same things. Look for a product that solves a problem. Crowdfunding is a good business in the sense there's a company called Lending Club and there's a company called Kickstart. Those are probably the 2 biggest crowdfunding companies. And the idea of crowdfunding really is there are a lot of different financial service products that only the wealthy have access to. So the government said, we think that everybody should be able to invest, not the elite, and we're going to make it easy for you to be able to get your message out to the general public. So what Lending Club does is they do small loans, peer-to-peer loans, and they put, say, you're a college student and you had your business plan. You put your business club, your business plan wouldn't be for Lending Club, but say for Kickstarter. You put your business plan on for Kickstarter, you go on, you say why it works, people contribute money. Kickstarter is a what's called equity or debt website, so you may give them a $20 credit on your product. They like your product, they support your product, and it's just new ways of raising money. But the whole idea now is 20 years ago or 25 years ago, if you had a good idea, in order to get to the public, raise money was so much more difficult than today. So what I would say to as a young entrepreneur, get your plan, really understand your product. Don't, as Ted said, don't test it amongst 3 friends. There's tons and tons of ways of testing it. And there's so many easier ways, like building a logo. There's a company, I think it's called 99 Logos. And what they do is you go online and they have a contest. And it's say $500, I think, for the winner. So you have lots of high-level advertising guys who on the weekends go onto this site and they enter the contest to make money. So there's so many different great products out there. And what I would say is define what you want your product to be. You were talking about going to work at JetBlue when we started. It's the easiest way as an entrepreneur to learn about a business, or if you have a business idea, is on somebody else's dime. So it's not a bad idea to go work for a company in a similar business and learn what they do. The cheapest dollar is the way to learn on somebody else's mistakes. Everybody's going to make mistakes in business. It's funny to see all these things where they say, I talk about lending, and lending, we end up with owning airplanes and art and all these things, and people say, well, you must be a good lender. I said, no, that actually means I'm a bad lender if I'm taking these things in. But the point is that after a while, you see the same things over and over again, and hopefully you learn to duck. But what I would say is, you have a business plan, you know your numbers, you don't fool yourself on the numbers, and then the key is tenacity. I don't look at it as failure. Tenacity and failure are very, very two different things. You're not going to sell everybody, but by the idea of just keeping on going, and you have a goal, and you have goals that are measurable and attainable, and every month, week, day, whatever the numbers are relevant to test, you test these numbers, you retest the numbers, and the reality is, in today's world, if you have a good idea, and I can think of 20 off the top of my head, the ability to get a good idea financed has gotten easier, and it's all, everything. They talk about marketing. Marketing is one part, but if you don't have the operational and you don't understand operational costs, then marketing just exposes a bad product. So understanding operational costs, understanding operational overhead, and always testing things. Test your numbers, test your, in terms of, you had a business plan where you said you wanted to get volunteers. There's a company, which it's sign of age, I can't think of the name, but it's a startup company. The person who started QVC, his grandson started it, and they came up with this concept that they would have college students that there are certain jobs where in towns where people would want college students. So they signed on, and security, storage, driving people from a bar, a designated driver, which would be cheaper than a car service. Like literally hundreds of different types of things. And the person built his business, raised his money, raised $2 million from crowdfunding. I think he's doing about $8 million in sales. But it's you take your business plan and you say, well, why would somebody volunteer? So I mean, I think, it's really, you start with a business plan. Your business plan, I'm sure Ted's gone over. You want to have a mission statement. You want to have a clear-cut goal. You want to have quarterly goals. You want to have annual goals. Everybody focuses too much as an entrepreneur on day-to-day. Everybody says, I'm going to build this, and look what I'm going to do. I'm going to get this tomorrow. You got to be thinking a year, 2, 3, 5 years in advance, because everybody overestimates what they can accomplish in a day or a week and underestimates what they can accomplish in a couple of years. So if you're looking and you say, you know, I want to sell 10,000 units in 2 years, how do I do that? Where do I have to be? What's the key thing in order to, I have to identify my market. How do I get out there? What's my cost per goods? How can I cheapen my cost per goods? With the way social media works, who are common products? You know, all those things that are covered are very, very important. But I am such a believer as an entrepreneur in it's goal driven, and you have to measure your own goals. And the biggest reasons business fail are because they delude themselves. They think their cost, they think they're making X amount of money, and they think they am Y. They think it costs this much to acquire a client, and it's Y. So if you're not always looking at it, and I always find whenever I get surprises in business, they're always bad. It's nobody calls me up and said, "Hey, that thing we thought was worth $3 million is worth 12." It's I will, and again, I'm not complaining. We have a bank, and our bank is based on lending mostly to law firms, and it was designed to create a specific need. It's one of the most profitable banks and has the most profitable products of any bank in the United States. But as a bank, the regulators want you to have mortgages. So unfortunately, we have to have mortgages. And mortgages, to me, in this environment, and again, I don't want to get too technical, but it has something what's called duration risk. So if you lend money in this interest environment and the interest rates go up, you could have a mismatched product. But I hate the mortgage business, although you'd say we were big players in the mortgage business. We're not big players in New York City, but I don't know if you guys remember, about 8 months ago there was a Con Ed where 2 buildings blew up. We have like 5 buildings in New York City. 2 of those were ours. I mean, we were insured and it worked out. But so I'm just in a huge believer in knowing your numbers, anticipating what could go wrong. And I guess, we're sort of out of time. So the last thing I'll say is, you always, when you look at your business, you have to say, what possibly can go wrong? What are my risk factors? Think of anything you can with your risk factors, because a lot of times if you contemplate what your risk factors are in a business, you'll be able to address them before they become, or remove them totally from risk factors. The mortgage example, well, you buy insurance, so we mitigated our risk on a building blow up. But I wish all of you guys luck. To me, Ted, when told me about this program, I said this is the greatest. I wish I was an entrepreneur today. I think there's more opportunity. You guys got to just believe in yourselves. Don't. When I was telling my friends I'm going to open medical offices, they were sort of laughing at me. And I'd get up at 4:30 in the morning and go to work, actually before school, and they'd be going out at night. And I just said, well, this is what I choose to do. So if you have an idea, believe in your idea, know your numbers, have goals, have short-term goals, have long-term goals. And last thing, as Ted says, you always have to know your customer.
Beautiful. So let's first hear it. Wonderful lecture. I mean, a lot of times we've heard this here from 4 other guest speakers, and who did not focus on the numbers, and we never found out whether Dennis has an accounting degree. He must have an accounting degree because no. What was your degree?
My degree was in political science.
Political science. There you go.
I actually wanted to teach U.S. history. That's what I thought I wanted.
Promoting a bank from teaching in high school, that's a big deal. All right, we have time for a couple of questions for Dennis.
Yes, sir.
So with the thank you, by the way. With the you mentioned the JetBlue thing that I mentioned earlier. So since I'm thinking that it's inevitable for me to become an entrepreneur further down the road, what would you say if I did take on a job with JetBlue or whatever? In the meantime, how to, I guess, increase my entrepreneurial IQ while I'm doing something like that? How can I continue setting myself up?
The obvious things, reading, you know, in terms of, I find, and this is a weird one and probably nobody else suggested this, I find listening to a lot of companies, I mean almost every public company has they come out with their earnings and they have their investor calls. I find listening to them is a great way to go. Things like TED is a good organization. There's a lot of organizations now. I really believe crowdfunding is going to disintermediate to traditional investing. So that's something where as a young entrepreneur, understand, look how other people raise money. You know, you look at your product on crowdfunding, whatever you could think of on crowdfunding, there's nothing you can think of that's not being offered now. Have something which differentiates you. You know, JetBlue is, and then always be looking. You look at something that JetBlue does, there's lots of offshoots. I had a guy who worked for me, and he wanted to go into the blood lab business. And he felt that, you know, he had an idea of how he could do it and how he could promote it. I ended up financing him and talking about his numbers. I put $2 million in. I probably have gotten $7 or $8 million back. I get $600,000-$700,000. The guy did not have grandiose plans. He wanted to stay in a local market. He wanted to cater to basically the New York Health and Hospital system. He did his own research. He discovered as a minority how minority contracts work. He said, and he started his own business. One of the things, when you get to the point, getting the right professionals, getting a good accounting firm that you work with, I mean, down the road, finding a really good tax lawyer is always important, but lawyers are an important prospect and everything. But also just going to shows, being out there, listening, and again, I think that crowdfunding is such a Kickstarter has a $500 million evaluation. They have 6 million people have signed up. They've raised over $1 billion. This year, crowdfunding in 2014 was a $14 billion industry. Next year, it's going to be a $50 billion industry. And we're going to put $1 billion, so we're going to be 2% of the crowdfunding industry ourselves next year. We think we should, I mean, as I said, it's sort of funny watching these things, and I look at myself just, and again, it's fooling myself, but looking at myself like you as sort of an entrepreneur, and all of a sudden I look at the aggregate sales that our businesses do, and we've become much more institutional. And you know, that's like a worry down the road, how to not be institutional and keep the entrepreneurial spirit, because this country is totally built and reliant upon entrepreneurs. It's the backbone of America. It's what separates America from everything else. And it's Ted and guys like you and people having an idea, believing in the idea, and building on it.
Beautiful. Good. Last question.
You talk a lot about, even previous presentations as well, selling your companies. At which point do you decide you want to sell your company?
Okay, so I look at now, I'm in a certain different position than I was when I started. So I look at different businesses where I want to have my exit strategy when I start in general. So I'll say, okay, well, now there's a problem once you reach a certain size, because in specialty finance, you know, I could merge, but there's very few people who are big enough at a certain size to buy you. But I would say that I look at investments, and you guys should look at it, 5-year plan. Your 5-year exit strategy should either be through IPO, or again, I think crowdfunding is going to replace the IPO market, or you have a target. There are people, you know, the Sir Richard Branson, the Sarah, oh God, the girl who invented Spanx. Sarah, I know, now
Right,
I'm
we talked about
embarrassed
this.
because if she sees this, I know her really well. I can't think of her last name. Her husband's name was Jesse Itzler. But she had an exit strategy, and I think that going in and saying, you know, you take JetBlue and you say, you know, I have a product, and here's 4 or 5 buyers. The more buyers or potential buyers, the better off it is. But when you start a business, like what I said, I have a different thing. I look at things for myself now as legacy businesses. So I may start a business where I never have any intention of selling. A lot of things I do at this point are tax-based, based on different tax strategies. But when in the beginning, when you're starting a business, you should have a 5-year business plan. Year 1 is build the business. 2 and 3 basically brand the business. Year 1 is start the business, get your proof of concept, understand how quickly you want to grow. Year 2s and 3, proof of concept, really understand the business, figure out your 5-year growth plan, and then you're in business to make money. I mean, you should always be looking and be listening to for an exit. Sometimes there are markets that get outpriced. You know, you look at the tech boom, or you look at the real estate boom, and if you're lucky enough to be in one of these businesses where you have companies trading at 60, 70 multiples and they're out of whack, you should always have, that's why I always say have a good accountant, have your numbers which are audible, have everything which is provable, because like my first business, I was just lucky. Somebody told me, get a Big 6 accounting firm. If I didn't do that, I don't know if the timing was right. I don't know if I would have been able to sell the business. But you have to go in with an exit. It's a great question. You have to go in with an exit strategy. And your exit strategy should absolutely be defined. Here's my 30 buyers. Here's my 50 buyers. Here's my 60 buyers. And the last thing I'll say is talking about Google. You know, it's everybody debates whether Facebook or Apple are overvalued, and I look at Apple and I think Apple's going to change TV, and I think Apple's actually an undervalued stock. But you look at Google, and Google has become so important that Google has a private equity firm that if I was designing a business now, what Google's advantage over every other business is Google itself. So if you're able to understand how people are going to use search engines, Google Ventures, I couldn't think of that. So like Google Ventures is a great exit company strategy for any new entrepreneur, because the ability to attract more eyeballs and leads than anything else, nobody's better at it than Google. They have their own space, they control their own territory, and even when you go to the other search engines, Google understands how to get to the top. So like your business plan, you know, if Google Ventures buys 20% of your company or 30% of your company or 50, whatever they need to buy, it gives you a sales force and it gives you expertise. And that's another thing as a young entrepreneur. You know, always be looking for people who you like, and that's probably something nobody else has said. If you're gonna, you always have to be looking as an entrepreneur for opportunities. So there are similar businesses, there are sales forces, there are joint ventures. Make sure that bad people make for bad business. So know the people you're going into business with. Don't think this guy has a great business or has a lot of money, so I should be in business. The people you're in business with are the people you live with every day. And it's, again, if I actually had to go, now that I think of, the first thing I would say in terms of business is know who you're in business with. Make sure, I have a rule, I only hire nice people. It sounds like it sounds like a silly rule.
We talked about that during this semester, that, you know, life's too short. You deal with people or partners or people that you can't get along with.
But you could go to any of the companies that we have, and there's you know, there's a culture there, and it's a rule we don't violate. You know, if somebody, I won't mention, you know, we've had opportunities to do business with some of the wealthiest people in the world And I said, I don't ever want to be in business where I'm worrying about somebody who's going to try and get an advantage over me.
Great. On that note, we're going to have to stop because the next class is.
Sorry.
Okay, so Dennis's lecture will be online, so you can see it again, and he's around.
Blakely. Her name is Sarah Blakely.
Sarah Blakely. Okay, Sarah. Good luck with your Spanx business.